welcome back to another episode of Come Over for Dinner. I'm Bess Hawthorne, and I am so excited you're joining me today. Today I have a very special guest. She's all the way from Texas. Her name is Nicole Jeffery. I'll tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll jump into all of her thoughts on hospitality. She is from England, and so we are going to enjoy a fantastic accent the whole episode. She and her husband, Steve Jeffery, lived in London for about 20 years. He was a part of a church plant. In 2008, they started Emmanuel Church in London, England, and they decided in 2020 to move to Texas, and he became one of the pastors of All Saints Presbyterian Church, a CREC church in Fort Worth. And of course, she is a pastor's wife, and she is very busy in that work. And part of what we're going to hear is just all the hospitality that she offers in their home. They have a lovely home and backyard where they host lots of people. She hosts a new members dinner about every 3 to 4 months where the new members get to come into their home and get to know her family better as well as each other. And she's really going to focus today on letting us know about big hospitality and how to do it well and without a lot of stress. So I'm excited about that. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you very much.
I forgot to mention that you also have 3 grown children who moved with you as well. They're, what you said, 18, 20, 21, something like that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the youngest has just finished high school.
Oh, that's exciting. So they're all in Texas as well, which is a blessing.
They are.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Did I forget anything?
Yeah, so I was born in England, lived in England all my life till we moved here. One of the things that's affected my cooking, though, is that my mother's not English. My mother's from Austria. And so she cooked very differently when I was growing up in a very un-English way. And I think that's affected the way I cook as well, because you are affected very much by how you eat at home as a child. I think these things are foundational to the way you think about food, actually. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I met my husband at college. And then, as you said, well, he went to seminary and then planted a church in 2008, and then moved here in 2020, which, if you remember your history, was the middle of COVID, so there is a bit of a story there, but we won't go into that right now.
How can we forget? Anytime you mention 2020, you know that there was some kind of chaos going on.
There was a story.
Yes,
but we made it.
Well, that's wonderful. Besides hosting and cooking and all of those things, Nicole is also writing a high school science curriculum. This sounds very interesting. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, so my background is as a chemical engineer, and I homeschooled our children right through from the beginning through to the end of high school. And one of the things I noticed over the years, both in England and over here, is that a lot of moms who are homeschooling struggle a little bit with the math and science side of things, particularly as their children get older. So I'm building an online portal at the moment for homeschoolers or for small schools or co-ops who are struggling to find an affordable science teacher, particularly focusing on the physical sciences and math at the high school level. So I'm working on that at the moment. And actually the first course, the chemistry course, should actually be launching very soon. And it's got all the labs and all the teaching in it. Everything gets marked through the system. And if you're interested, go to axiomscience.com. But I won't tell you any more about it now.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. That's fantastic. It's so great to hear about new resources for homeschoolers, because there's new and upcoming things that a lot of times you don't hear about except word of mouth. So I love that you're putting that out there. And I can also put a link on your blog post. So anybody wanting to hear about her recipes or the products we talk about, or this link right here, just go to comeoverfordinner.com and you will find it there. Let's jump into your thoughts on hospitality and how you do hospitality in your home and in your community.
Yeah, in a way, that's a very big question, because I think it varies so much on who it is that you're seeking to show hospitality to. And I think that's one thing that I've thought about a lot over the years. It's not so much about kind of me and what I like to do, but the people we're seeking to invite into our homes, or more broadly to share our lives with. Because I think hospitality needn't actually be in your home, meeting someone for a picnic or something. There are lots of ways of doing things. But I think one of the things over the years that I have thought about is that the people who are coming and what will make them feel most comfortable. So I know some people who just love a beautifully set table with, all the silverware laid out and all the glasses and all those beautiful things. And there are people who love that. Other people I know, I think if they walked in, particularly with their little children, and they saw all that beautifully set table, they'd actually find that quite uncomfortable and worrying, and just worrying about what their children would do and so on. One of the things I've tried to do over the years is to think about who is coming and what kind of environment would make them feel most comfortable, and what kind of food, particularly with younger children or sometimes with much older people as well, who struggle to cut things perhaps, or, just to think about what would make their experience of being in your home the most pleasurable or the most pleasing. And I think another thing that I've thought about, well, it's actually a quote from, I think it was J.C. Ryle, who was an 18th century preacher and bishop. You may have heard of him, but
Yes.
he in the context of preaching, used to talk about crucifying your style, meaning that you're preaching to the people. And he'd been trained in rhetoric and how to argue well and all of these things. And he taught the young pastors to kind of ditch that and think about who it was they were speaking to in a way that would work with them. And I think that same lesson actually applies to hospitality, because it's not really about you and your style and what you love to do. It's about the people who you're seeking to share your home with and your time with. So that's just one thing I've thought about over the years. And I think one of the things that's led me to do is to be happy to take shortcuts and to have people over, even if things were very busy at the time, thinking it's better to do something than if I haven't got time to do the big show, I've got time to do something. I remember many years ago, before we had children, a couple we knew very well at the church we were at then invited us over, and they were very busy people. They just got a takeout, and it was absolutely fine.
Yeah. They were just wanting to have you over, just visit with you.
Exactly, and that was fine. And I think that kind of thing is a good lesson, because it's certainly not my instinct. My instinct would be to have, a beautifully set table and multiple courses and make it. I guess that's the way my mother did hospitality. She never used that word. She talked about entertaining. And I think there's a big difference between kind of entertaining, which is more of a big show, and hospitality, which is more about sharing your life. And I've definitely done a lot more of the hospitality end of things.
Right.
Because I remember when my second child was 5 weeks old, we were at seminary. So my son was under 2 and the little one was tiny. And there were some pastors who were over in London from South Africa who we wanted to spend some time with. And they came over for dinner. And I remember I bought a dessert, and it was the first time I'd had people over and I bought a dessert. And it was because, a bit busy with the baby and so on. And I realised you can buy a dessert and it's fine. It's.
But you still felt a twinge of guilt, I bet.
I did, which I feel less now.
Those
but
days.
That was 20 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do think it's wonderful when you have the time and the capacity to go the extra mile. Mm-hmm. But I think the sharing your life is more important than the doing it all yourself. So I think that's one thing I've learnt over the last 20 years or so. We've been married 26 years, so I guess over the last 26 years or so.
Yes.
Yeah. Shortcuts
That's wonderful advice. Yes, absolutely. That is wonderful encouragement, because, everything you said is so true, but really thinking about how to make hospitality approachable, thinking through, like you said, who is coming into your home, what will make them feel the most comfortable, because it is definitely not a show. And sometimes the right thing is those beautiful table settings and a special dinner, and sometimes it's takeout. So that is just a really great thing to remember and put at the forefront of our minds as we talk about this. Well, one of the things that you do is host a new members dinner. Tell us a little bit about that, and why do you host that? What does it accomplish, and how do you put that on?
So when we moved here, which was nearly 5 years ago, one of the things we wanted to do was gradually work around the church and have everybody over for dinner, because that's what we'd done in London with a church of sort of 60 people, and it isn't that a big deal to have those families over. But the church was a lot bigger, and it was just growing. It was actually growing faster than we could keep up with having people over for dinner.
The one in Texas?
Sorry, yeah. So the church in Texas.
Church in Texas,
yeah. So we got here, and so we started off thinking, well, we'll gradually have everybody over for dinner. And it soon became obvious that it was just going to be impossible to have every family over for dinner by themselves. There were just too many families, and the church was growing,
so fast.
So we were never going to catch up. So we thought, well, what can we do? We were keen to, particularly to have new people into our home. We wanted them to see us and our family. I mean, the children aren't around so much now, but to see us in our own environment, to be able to have a chance to get to know us. And also, we thought, actually, it's really good for people to get to know each other. It's not just about relationships with us. So probably after we'd been here maybe about a year, I forget when we started, we decided to start hosting larger events every 3 to 4 months, where we would invite everybody who had become a member during that time, or if they'd become a member recently before that but hadn't been able to make the previous event. So people who've joined certainly within the last year and who hadn't been to our home before. So we just started doing that, and it's varied in number. We've actually got one this Friday, which is relatively small. There's only about 25 people. The biggest one we had was about 70. And I actually missed it because I had to go to England to be with my parents at very short notice. And we had it all arranged. My 2 older children were at college. So it was my husband and my daughter, who was then, I guess, 16. And so my daughter basically did a really good job. She basically did the whole
wonderful.
thing. So she did all the things that I normally do. And it was a bit chaotic because there were a lot of little children, but I missed that one. Usually it's more like 40, something like that. It depends.
Which tells everyone how fast your church is growing. If those are all new members, that is a lot to keep up with. So what a wonderful way to welcome them. Oh, that's true.
No, it's good. Yeah, those include children. So, a few big families can quickly get up to 20 or 30. But,
that's true.
So we started doing that. And it varies probably we do 3 or 4 a year. It depends exactly, what else is going on and how many people have joined. And I think one of the things I've learned is how to do bigger hospitality with very little stress. And one of the things that has led to that actually is a cultural difference between England and certainly Texas, and I suspect other parts of the US in terms of hospitality.
Sounds very interesting. It feels like you're about to reveal a big secret, so go ahead.
Well, it's not really a big secret, and it probably feels very obvious to you. But in England, if someone invites you over for dinner, I would take a gift. So usually flowers, chocolates, bottle of wine would be standard, maybe something else. But that would be the standard. You'd take some kind of a thank you. Here, people always say, "What can I bring?" They don't tend, occasionally someone's brought a gift, but almost always people say, "What can I bring?" And actually, I was talking to a lady, she's actually Canadian, but lived in Holland for a while. When they were in Holland, she would say to people, "Oh, what can I bring?" And some people were kind of so surprised by this. It's like, well, I've invited you for dinner. I
have
can
the
provide
meal.
a meal. I can afford
what do
the
you
food,
mean?
Like what they
right. Why do I need you to bring a salad?
So I can make salad too.
Right.
Which I thought was funny when she pointed it out. I thought that's so true. In England, maybe in church circles, sometimes people might say, "What can I bring?" But almost always people will bring a thank you gift and you will provide the food. But here, if I invite people for dinner, almost inevitably they'll say, "What can I bring?"
Yes, that's very
and that makes life a lot easier. And actually, for these larger events that we do, they're not formal, but I do a kind of sign up for these larger events for kind of the new members events. And I'll have, please sign up if you're able. And I will have 2 sorts of sides. So one will be, so we always provide the meat partly because it's generally a bit more expensive and I don't really like asking people to bring things that are potentially more. So and my husband either grills it or smokes it, and he loves doing that anyway. So he does that outside, so I'm not even doing that. So I'll ask people to sign up either for, that's kind of bread, pasta, rice, that kind of thing, or a side that's vegetable salad type of thing. So those 2, and then dessert, and then drinks. So if people just want to buy some bottles of water, or something, or some orange juice, that, it can be super easy, but they can bring more if they'd like to. And then I just keep an eye on who's signed up for what. And then usually like the day before, I'll just check the amounts. And if one thing hasn't really been signed up for, then I'll just, do a rice salad or just something to fill that gap. But usually it's all filled. So my husband's doing the meat. Everybody's bringing everything else. So literally all I need to do is make sure things are neat and tidy, put out glasses and plates. One shortcut, again, this is probably not at all surprising to most people here, but the disposable thing. So in England, I would never use anything disposable in the home. I would use it if we were having a picnic or we were camping or something. But in the home, I would never use disposable plates or anything. But here I do. If the numbers go above about 15 or 16 or maybe 20, then I'll switch to disposable. And then we just put trash bags around the place. And I usually have a big box for the glass and cans and things, so for recycling, so that can go straight in the recycling. The rest is in the trash. If I'm not doing any food, which is most common, I only leave about half an hour before people arrive to just tidy things out, get out the plates and, the cutlery and napkins and things. I mean, it's
this
really
does
not
sound
much
very
work.
low stress.
It's really low stress. And then, so my husband's doing the meat. And if for some reason he can't, I just buy marinated pork loins and you just put them in the oven. So it's literally, you
Just
put them in the oven. It's
setting a timer.
It's no work. It's no work. So that's always the backup. But usually he comes back and does it outside on the grill, which is kind of nicer. But if he doesn't, then all I'm doing is putting
You have a backup plan.
marinated pork loins in the oven. It's no work. And then everybody brings everything else. And then generally people put things in the trash. So it usually doesn't take more than half an hour to set up and half an hour to tidy up. So
That's wonderful.
It's really not much stress.
Right.
It's
And
really
so then
easy.
you think, okay, big events, I can do this. I can handle this. It's not something that you constantly push down the road or put off.
Yeah.
How do you sign up for that? Do you use like Sign Up Genius, or how do you have people coordinate?
Yeah, Sign Up Genius, because it's
Okay.
very easy. You can just put the different things in and the approximate amounts, and people can see what others have brought as well.
Yes.
So they can see what hasn't been brought. So, I mean, it's really very easy. A couple of weeks ago, we had, I don't know if you have heard of the Reformed Evangelical Seminary. It's a mainly online seminary that my husband's very involved in.
Okay.
But they had a study week down in Fort Worth 2 weeks ago. And we hosted a couple of events at our house to do with that. And I actually did the same thing for that. But because they were all from out of town, they weren't bringing things, obviously, because they were just staying in a hotel for a few days. So we had the biggest one that week was about 50 people. And that one I did have to do all of it. So it was more work. But again, you can take so many shortcuts. So a salad, that's no work. I bought just nice bread. I mean, from Walmart, it wasn't like really expensive, but I bought nice bread. I made a salad. What else did I do? I think I made a rice salad because that's quite easy as well. I just did that in the Instant Pot. I think I did 2 days. I can't remember exactly. Oh, I bought slaw. I know everybody makes slaw, but I just thought, well, I've got 50 people. I don't need to be making the slaw. I've learned over the years. And so I bought things like that. And I actually bought cheesecakes for dessert that were, that were delicious. Making dessert for 50 people. They were actually really nice.
Right.
And nobody was sort of... I didn't hear any mutterings about, oh, she didn't make the dessert.
This isn't homemade, and I can tell.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Right.
Otherwise, it was just the same. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, where do you typically shop? Do you go to Costco for big events, or do you just go to your local grocery store?
I tend to shop in 3 places. So I do a big Costco shop about once a month. I do a Walmart once a week. And then I also have an Aldi around the corner because there are a few things you can get there that you can't get in other places very easily, particularly European things. Whole sides of salmon. And we love doing whole sides of salmon.
Wow.
We do that a lot. And so there are a few things. And also their prices are very competitive.
Their prices are
if they had click and collect, I would use it more. I really, so I like Aldi a lot. I might, but at the moment, that's what I do. But so the thing I did for RES, I was expensing. So I wanted it all to be from one place. So I did just get it all from Walmart because then it was just one receipt that I could hand over. It makes it easier. But for events that are more for me, I do like Costco because you get very good prices. But I usually go about once a month and then do a weekly pickup. So I don't shop anywhere fancy. But it needn't be high stress. And even places like Walmart, you can actually buy nice desserts and things for...
Right.
And if it's 50 people and people aren't bringing things, well, then there are just easy ways to make shortcuts, as I said. So even that probably took me less than maybe 2 or 3 hours to set up. And then still the same tidy up, maybe half an hour to tidy up. So even that was
goals. I do not have this little stress when it comes to big events.
I don't know. It's funny, in London, when we planted the church, we were very small. And every Sunday, we had a church lunch, a fellowship lunch every week. But then we would invite the whole church back to our house. Occasionally, it would be the other elders would have them back, but usually it was our house. And we did that pretty much every Sunday for 3 years. And I would then give everybody dinner who was there, which was usually about 20 people. and we had little kids at the time, so that kind of makes life more complicated. So I guess that was where I first started doing larger cooking, and I'd just do a big thing of soup and buy bread, or I would do like a pulled pork and buy rolls. So it would be pretty simple. And I also learned not to stress too much about quantities, because you don't know, we never knew how many were coming, and we never knew how hungry they would be. So I just kind of did a lot. And if there were a lot of people, then I gave slightly smaller portions. And if there were fewer people, people could help themselves. And I think that helped me to just not stress about it being perfect. So now,
yes,
I don't stress about it being perfect.
Yeah. I once had a guest who, similar to what you're saying, just said, when you're feeding people, of course, you want to try to have the right amounts and have enough, even enough for seconds. But in the end, when you're feeding people, a large group, like say a church potluck, you're not actually there to stuff them. And they're not expecting that either. So it's wonderful if they can get seconds or maybe thirds. But if not, if you're having to give smaller portions and everybody just has one go at it, it's fine. They don't have to be absolutely stuffed to the gills and then, roll out the door. You can just have a good meal, and then they're going to eat a few hours later, or then, the next meal or a snack when they get home. It'll be fine. That does help with the stress when you recognize it's okay. You fed them. You don't have to just have massive quantities.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was where I sort of started doing larger hospitality in that context. And after about 3 years, the church was changing. We kind of changed what we were doing a little bit. But yeah. And I think once you've done it a few times as well, it doesn't become a particularly stressful thing anymore. Yeah.
You feel much more confident in what you're doing, I'm sure. Once you've done it a few times, you get your feet under you. It's like, wait a second, I can repeat this. This is not bad.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into... Yes, absolutely. Let's jump into some of the favorite things you love to serve when you're planning an event at your home or a group coming into your home. What would you put on the menu? You mentioned marinated pork tenderloin. Is that what you pretty much plan every time? Or you just tell us your favorite menu to serve?
No, I mean, that I don't do it every time. If we're going big, that's definitely my default, because it's just really easy. Pulled pork is another good one for larger groups. I'm sure people are very familiar with things like that. So what I usually do for a big group, though, would always be to try and keep the sides very simple, usually cold. If we're talking 20 plus people, if it's smaller groups, things change a little bit. But if it's larger groups, then I generally keep the sides cold, because then you're not rushing around, or something that you prepare in advance. So I don't know if you've come across funeral potatoes, which is a very odd name for a recipe.
I've heard of them, yes.
So I discovered them a few years ago, and I like those a lot, because it's like you can do a huge dish and you can prepare it in advance, and then you just stick it in the oven. So funeral potatoes would be a kind of hot side that I would do, because again, at the last minute, it's very little stress. Or rice in the Instant Pot, so some kind of warm rice kind of dish, maybe garlicky rice or something. And then generally salads of various kinds, rather than trying to do hot sides, because it just makes it so much less stressful if everything is just basically ready in the refrigerator and you're assembling rather than trying to cook at the last minute. And dessert, I always will do cold. Whatever the size of the group, then you don't need to worry about things. I mean, I do sometimes do warm puddings, like crumble cobbler type things, but generally I will do cold desserts, because then you're not having to worry about that during dinner. You can be with your guests, you can be doing other things,
just sitting in the refrigerator ready for you to grab out.
Exactly.
Do you typically do something like cheesecake, or what is your go-to?
One that I really like doing, I don't actually have the recipe to hand here, but it's a French recipe called tarte tatin, which is it's like an upside down apple tart. So I can describe it because it's very easy to do, and I can send you the recipe. But basically, you get a round dish and you put brown sugar and cinnamon in the bottom, and then you put sliced apples very thin, and you just do layers of apples. And on the first layer, you layer really prettily, because that's what people will see, because it's going to go upside down. And you do kind of crisp apples. And then if you can get them, you do more mushy apples, like brambly apples on top of that, because they'll mush. And then you just put a layer of pastry on the top, and you cook it upside down, and then let it cool. And then you turn it the other way up, and you have the pretty apple on the top, and it kind of turns into a kind of caramel on the top because you've got the sugar and the cinnamon, and that's really nice. And it's easy, it's kind of healthy, done in advance, and it's really nice with creme fraiche if you can get it. Something I find it harder to get here.
Yes.
Or vanilla ice cream.
Right. I think the fancier grocery stores like Albertsons down in Texas probably has the creme fraiche, but if you're serving a giant crowd, then that's pretty expensive too.
It is really expensive. So vanilla ice cream's fine.
Yes, vanilla ice cream. But it seems like if I can find it, I feel like I've had a guest on here, may have been Marinelle Booth. Her husband is also a pastor in Texas, Nacogdoches, Texas.
Oh, I know. Of course, yeah. I know her.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was her who told me how to make creme fraiche. I'll find her recipe and put it on here if I'm remembering correctly. She was saying, oh, it's so easy and this is what you do. So I'll look that up.
Yeah, you can make it. I've never made it because in England you get it everywhere. So
is it similar to us finding like sour cream here or whipped cream, or what's comparable to it?
It's most similar to sour cream, but it is a different consistency. It doesn't quite work quite the same in recipes. And it's a French thing, but it's very, very, very common to find it in England. I mean, I never struggled to find it.
You never had a reason to make it. Similar to us, no. I've never made sour cream. I mean, it's just so easy to buy. Right. Yeah, I mean, I could, but why would I? It's just so easy to buy the Daisy brand sour cream. That's my favorite.
So that's one. Another dessert, actually breaking my hot dessert rule, but another dessert that I've done a lot that's very easy is stewed dried fruit, and you just put it in a crock pot. And I do have that recipe is not up here either, but you put various stewed dried fruit, prunes and whatever you've got really, and then you just add usually a bit of honey and a bit of water, sometimes a little bit of port if you want something a little bit, and then you just put that on. So, and then that's just in the crock pot. So you leave it for 4 hours or something, and then that just goes really well with vanilla ice cream. And
yeah, it's a topping for vanilla ice cream.
Yeah, I mean, you can have it as a bowl. You can do it either way. You can have a bowl of that with vanilla ice cream, or you can have vanilla ice cream as a topping. I usually do the former, actually, like you have that without vanilla ice cream on top, but you can do it either way. And again, it's kind of healthy, and it breaks my no hot desserts rule, but it's a no work at the last minute rule, really.
Right.
And it's almost no work to do it. I mean, it takes 5 minutes to put everything.
Very English.
Yeah. You can see I do very easy cooking. I mean, I love the fun, like Christmas, and you've got lots of time. I love doing the complicated things, but it's not realistic to do that. So I tend to do easy.
Yes, and sometimes the simple is actually the best. And obviously I have done very complicated recipes, but sometimes the simple with just really good ingredients, like really good fruit, really good ice cream, you just can't beat it. It's just exactly what you need after a meal of pulled pork or marinated pork loin or whatever you've served before that. A taste of fruit and ice cream, who could complain? It sounds amazing. Before we move forward, a big thank you to the sponsors for supporting today's episode. Have you ever thought about how much science is involved in cooking? Chemistry, physics, and biology are at play all over your kitchen. On the cutting board, in the mixing bowl, on the stovetop, and in the oven. Inquisicook is on a mission to show students that science can be relevant, fascinating, and delicious, all while teaching an essential life skill. Inquisicook begins with the basics of food science and culinary arts, then adds skills and concepts in a carefully crafted sequence that leads to proficiency. Best of all, the principles can be applied to any cuisine, any available foods, and any dietary restrictions. So when it's time for people to come over for dinner, the options are endless. Visit inquisicook.com to view sample lessons, then check out the recipe gallery to see just how crave-worthy science can be.
There is one other recipe I was going to mention, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely. As many as you want.
It's really one that my husband invented, so I should give him the credit. So we do this. It's for bread rolls. We do it a lot with pulled pork or smoked meat particularly, or anything like that. We did name these rolls, and they have a very funny name. We call them "Very Good This Anymore" rolls, which is a quote from, if you've seen the first of the Hobbit movies, there's a scene very near the beginning where one of the dwarfs comes in and eats all Bilbo's food, and he's eating his bread rolls, and he says, "Very good this anymore." And anyway, it's stuck as a family, so that's what we call them, because they're really good rolls. And actually, I made
and
them for
anyone
a family
coming in
recently.
might just eat them and eat them and eat them.
Yeah, and exactly. So I made them. I give my husband the full credit for this, but we made them recently for a family at church who just had a baby, and the husband sent my husband a text saying, "Oh my days, the most delicious bread I've ever tasted." So it is really nice. So I can
high praise about some rolls.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is for bread rolls. I mean, they're savory. They're very savory. So you wouldn't eat them like with honey or anything, but they are really good as a side.
It would be delicious as a side.
And they use the bread maker. So I break bread quite a lot, but I do everything. You see, I'm a shortcut person. I do all the dough in the bread maker, so it's not a lot of work. You put everything in and you press go, and then you just shape the rolls, and it's not a lot of work, and they're really good. So I can definitely let you have the recipe for what goes in the bread maker.
Absolutely. We will post all of these recipes. Do you have a favorite bread machine? What do you use to make your roll dough?
Oh, golly. I can't remember the name of it. When we moved here from England, I'd had a bread machine that we'd had for years. We used to run it every night and eat the bread for breakfast every morning. It's just what we did for years. And it was a great chore for little children, actually, because even a very young child can put the ingredients in the bread machine. So our children they got to choose the bread. They just weren't allowed the super sweet ones for a normal day, but they would generally make the bread. Anyway, we'd have bread every morning.
It's a fun job.
But when we moved, it is a fun job. They kind of enjoyed it, and it meant I didn't have to do it.
Exactly.
But when we moved, the voltage in England is different in the US. So our all our electrical appliances didn't work here. So our computers and things, electronics are fine because they've got transformers. But all the things like bread makers, we just gave away because we knew they wouldn't work here. So a number of ladies in the church, when we moved here, bought us a lot of the things that we'd left behind. And one very kind lady brought me this beautiful bread machine, and I can't remember what brand it is. I'm afraid I can find out and let you know.
Okay.
I can let you know. I'll just write that down. But it is great. And we use it. I don't use it as much as we used to because the children aren't really around so much now, but it is great. And I use the dough setting a lot for rolls or focaccia, anything that's not like normal loaf shape. I just do the dough in the bread machine, and it's really easy because you just put it in and press go.
Fabulous shortcut. Well, speaking of shortcuts and time savers, that is something we talk about, and you have given so many good tips about shortcuts that really would help you be able to execute a large crowd or serving a large crowd on a short amount of time. So I love all of those.
I can just throw one more thought in as well. About 2 years ago, our church started doing a kind of midweek Wednesday night event, including a meal for everybody who came. And the numbers there are significantly more than I've ever had in my home. So it's usually about 120 to 150. So that's a whole further step up for cooking. But I found that you can do that really easily too, if you pick your menu carefully. So if you're ever asked to do something like that, I can tell you my go-to super easy meal for like over 100 people. And that is hoagies and salads. So if you think what you do, so I do it, get it all, the church has got a Sam's subscription. So I try and get it all from there so that the lady who does the shopping only has to go to one shop and not like go traipsing around lots. So I try and get it all from Sam's.
And
so
hot tip, Sam's Club delivers now too. By the way, that's new-ish to me.
I should tell her that because she goes every week to pick it all up. But anyway, so you buy the bread rolls, which all you need to do is slice. I buy their frozen meatballs, shortcuts and tenny, but they're very nice actually, the Sam's meatballs. Frozen meatballs, they're gluten-free as well. And Prego sauce, which is also gluten-free. And literally, so you defrost the meatballs. We've got big turkey roasters at church, and I like using those because it's very dependable. So you just let them defrost on the low defrost setting and pour the sauce on, slice the rolls, and then just make a big salad. It's like,
and that's it.
Honestly,
you have your meat, your bread, your vegetable,
and it takes. I mean, it takes a little bit of a while to chop the salad, but honestly, if you've got your head down, you're working hard, I reckon I could do the whole thing in an hour and a half, just me. I mean, you have to defrost the meatballs, but I just ask them to leave them out, not put them in the freezer when they've got them. And then you just put them in the turkey roaster, leave them for half an hour on a low heat, add the sauce, that's ready.
Yeah, because the meatballs
Slice the
are already
rolls,
cooked.
make a salad. Yeah, exactly. They're pre-cooked. So it's just
And honestly, you could buy
scary.
chopped salad already. It's better when you chop it fresh, but you could buy
bags
chopped salad.
of salad. You could.
Bags
and
of
then
salad.
I always buy dessert when I'm doing 120 people. So
You mean you don't want to make like 15 cakes?
No, I don't. I'd say it could be ice cream bars or cookies or cheesecakes or apple turnovers, or these are all things that Sam's have.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other places have similar things.
Sure.
So really, I found that you can do it. You change your menu. You're not just doing what you would cook for, 3 or 4 people and trying to do that many times, because that would be really stressful.
You would have to have a lot of people helping. I mean, if you were trying to put on a more formal meal for that many people, think about serving a rehearsal dinner or more. I mean, most people don't have 150 people at a rehearsal dinner.
Yeah.
Think about doing a rehearsal dinner times 2 or 3. That would be really, really, really difficult. And you're saying you could pull this kind of menu off even by yourself in under a couple of hours. That's amazing.
I think head down, I could, I mean, all you're doing is heating up meatballs and sauce and chopping things.
Assembling things. What's your go-to salad? You've mentioned a couple of times, like doing a salad. When you think salad in your head, what is your number one, like, these are the ingredients I'm going to buy to assemble the salad?
Yeah, I do different things, to be honest. I quite like using spinach leaves as the kind of green basic. So spinach and strawberries and sliced almonds is a nice mixture. Or a romaine or an iceberg if you're looking for something crispier, chop that up. And then a kind of very standard, I don't know if it's standard for other people, but for me, very standard would be tomato, cucumber, Parmesan sauce. If I'm being super simple, then that would be my kind of standard basic ingredients. And then if I'm doing something for a lot of people, I tend not to dress it, because people will have allergies, and sometimes you get things in dressings people can't eat. And also some people just don't like dressed salad. And actually, if I'm doing a lot of people, I would tend to do the main salad with Parmesan cheese or some kind of cheese. I think cheese in salad can be nice, but I'll do a side one that doesn't have the cheese because they're, lactose-free people. So I try and kind of bear that in mind a little bit. But that menu for lots of people, other than the bread, is completely gluten-free. And then you can just buy a few gluten-free rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and it's, apart from the cheese on the salad, it's lactose-free.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, apart from the bread and the cheese, it's lactose-free. So if you've got a separate salad and then you've got some special rolls that are gluten and lactose-free, which you can buy as well, then you've actually covered
all your bases.
I mean, they're always odd diets, but
that's true.
The kind of basic special diets. So, and it needn't be a big stress, and generally people really like it. In fact, I know the kids who come at the midweek thing, it's like, yes, meatball hoagies.
Meatballs again. Like, this is our favorite.
Exactly. It's like, and it's really easy.
Yes.
So,
and, it's saving all of those people who are coming to the midweek meal and meeting any kind of work or cleanup at home. I mean, how grateful are they going to be? I would be very grateful if I had a whole bunch of kids and I could just, we're zooming out the door, dinner's ready, we can go.
Yeah. So that's definitely my go-to for super big groups. But I'm sure there are other easy things, but I definitely go for easy. The bigger the group, the easier my menu, basically.
Yes. Okay. Well, hey, that's something for us all to keep in mind. When you are having people to your home, what is your best prep tip? How do you prepare in advance? And I know you said you only give yourself about 30 minutes. So tell us a little bit about that. I know you do more than that, especially throughout the week. I know you keep your house clean and all of those things. But just give us some of your best prep tips when you're thinking about, okay, a group's coming to my home. Like, for instance, this Friday, you have the new members coming. What do you do?
So other than food, which we've sort of talked about, is that what you mean kind of generally? Well,
yes.
So I have, so in our kitchen, we've got like an island in the middle of the kitchen. So that's where people put the food. So I just put plates at one end, and at the other end, I put the silverware and the napkins. And then I'll just ask people to put their food kind of in a sensible order. So like more carbs, more salads. And then I tend to put meat at the end. And the reason I put meat at the end is because people tend to take more of the things at the beginning. And if you put the meat first, particularly maybe teenage boys will just basically fill their plate with meat and then maybe take a little bit of salad. Whereas I always do it the other way around.
I have made this mistake before.
Okay.
I have definitely made this mistake.
Okay, so you've seen this too.
Yes.
So I always put the bread type things, bread, pasta, rice things first, then the kind of salad, vegetable things, and then the meat at the end. So hopefully the plate's already reasonably full by the time they get to the meat at the end. So I will just then sort of direct people where to put things on there, put the desserts to one side that people bring, and then we've got a separate kitchen table, and I set that up for drinks. So I call it the bar. It's not really a bar, but it's sort of separate from the food so that people can go and help themselves. So I have a big like water urn thing with a tap on it. So I'll fill that up with iced water. I'll put plastic cups out with a pen so that people, particularly the children, they can have their names on it. 'Cause otherwise I found children will come back for so many more plastic cups and you just get through so many cups. But if they've written their name on it, they generally don't kind of lose
remember
it. So I
where to go look.
Roughly. And then it depends how many people are bringing drinks, how many drinks I'll have got in. But I'll always put some out so that when people arrive, if the people bringing drinks come later, I don't want people to turn up and not be able to get themselves a drink. So I'll put out a little bit, usually cans of sparkling water, and then I'll usually put a bottle of wine and some beer. And then we have a cool tub thing that I just put ice in, and then I'll just put some beer or colder drinks in there, and then just encourage people to help themselves to a drink. So the sort of the first people I kind of help them, but I'll sort of try and encourage people to treat it just like just go and help yourself,
right.
So that I'm not having to kind of watch everybody's glasses. With a smaller group, you can sort of see who needs another drink, but with a larger group, you can't really see who's got what. So just try and encourage
especially if you're
people
involved in conversation with people. And you're in the middle of it. You're not circling the room for 40 different glasses and trying to encourage them to, here's some more water or whatever they're drinking.
So I'll always, I'll point it out to people, go and have a drink. I think I mentioned earlier, I'll put trash bags, certainly one in the kitchen and one outside, maybe more depending how many people, and try and remember to put a box for the recycling. I think I mentioned that. And then thinking about children, looking at the ages of the children who are coming. So we've got cornhole, which we put out outside, the game where you throw the bean bags into, we'll put that outside. And if there are younger children, we'll put out like little balls and, things for them to play with. My children are really good at entertaining the younger children when they're here. None of them are going to be here on Friday. They're all away at the moment. And then also bring down, or just be either beforehand or be aware of younger children. So we might bring down kind of picture books or games that aren't really, really messy, but that could entertain a smaller child. So the babies are generally fine, but it's the kind of toddler age where they don't really sit and just talk to people, but they kind of want to do things. So we'll bring down toys for them to play with so that they're kind of entertained and the parents can keep an eye on them, but still be,
able to visit. That's a great idea, just to make sure you have some things to keep them busy, because you're right. Little children have to have something to do. And if everything is, no, don't touch this, no, don't touch that, the parents are going to be very stressed. It won't be a fun time. Because sometimes parents bring things and sometimes they don't.
Yeah. And if the weather is not too hot or too cold or too anything else, too wet, we do tend to try and spill outside, because mess is much easier to clear up if it's outside. And it's also pleasant to be outside. So if the weather allows, we will generally kind of open the doors and put out chairs outside and just sort of not necessarily encourage people to go out, but make it inviting to be outside.
Yes.
So because we have had in the years where we were having people in London sort of every Sunday, there were a lot of little children, and there was a big cleanup after. There would be food all over the floor. So we
Oh,
got our children to bed, and then we basically had to clean the floor.
right.
Which is
Because it
fine.
was just a
But
disaster.
yeah, and when you've got lots of little children, and we
It's
had
just
no
normal.
carpet downstairs, for which I'm very thankful. But if that mess can be outside, it does make life a little bit easier.
For sure.
So
Makes cleanup
yeah, but
faster.
yeah, and sometimes it's too hot or too wet or too cold, and that's fine. And
Yeah.
then you have a cleanup, but that's fine.
Right.
Yeah,
That's fun.
So yeah.
Well, you've mentioned lots of great things already, but do you have any other advice for making people feel welcome when they come into your home?
I think sometimes some people can find too much attentiveness actually a bit much. And I think maybe that's slightly the difference between hospitality and entertaining, which I kind of alluded to earlier. If you kind of think back, I guess, to a more formal age when, you would take people's hat and people's coat, or at least you would in England when you were wearing a hat and a coat, and, just be very attentive to people. I think sometimes people can find that a little bit too much, and they actually want to be a bit more relaxed, and that they find that more welcoming. So I think it's trying to understand who your guests are and what makes them comfortable. It's funny. I mean, there's another cultural difference I noticed when I came here. In England, if you go to someone's house, almost the first thing you'll do is offer them a drink, and they will say yes. And that because it's almost like it's an acceptance of your hospitality. So, oh yes, that would be lovely. So inevitably, would you like a cup of tea? Oh yeah, that would be lovely. If it's mid-afternoon, not so much in the evening. Even if you don't really want a cup of tea, you say yes, that would be lovely because
You're accepting their hospitality.
Exactly. Whereas here, I've noticed so much more people say, oh no, I'm not thirsty. And at first
You're
I was
like, oh,
what do you
well, that
mean
just
you're not
offended
thirsty?
me.
That's completely irrelevant to whether or not you're thirsty. This
Doesn't matter.
This
You
is
still
about
say
a
yes.
social cue. Yes.
Right. It's part of the hospitality dance.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. And there are some differences. I think there are cultural differences. I like that hospitality dance, and you're right. So now I don't mind if people stand in my home and I've put drinks out and they don't have a drink, because I've realised they're seeing it as
a
are you
cultural
thirsty,
difference,
rather than would you like to accept my hospitality?
Right.
And I never really realised that was actually what was behind the question. It was very much, it was almost like a ritual. And of course you say yes unless,
which is
and you
similar
probably
to
say,
what you talked about earlier when you were talking about in the South, where it's almost automatic for people to say, well, what can I bring? It's almost a requirement. That's not really the right word, but etiquette wise, it almost feels like I should offer to help. I should offer to, instead of maybe a hostess gift. I mean, they might bring a hostess gift too, but I should offer something from my kitchen. And since this is a big deal for me to go to their house and eat a full meal, I can help.
I can do something. Yeah.
I can do something. And in other cultures, like you said, maybe a lot more in the North or in England and other places like that, it's like, I'm serving you a whole meal. Why would you ask that? If like I'm going to lack a salad or a bread or or dessert. I mean, why would you even ask me this? No, don't bring something. I just invited you for the meal. So it is funny. It's kind of like this hospitality dance that you have to understand where you are in the culture and understand who you're talking to. And if you don't really know, it's okay. You just kind of work around each other and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's
I think
a
those
funny idea. The drink thing. I'm not sure how it goes in England, so I like that story.
Yeah. No, I just couldn't imagine saying no thank you if I went to someone's house in England and they offered me a drink. That would just feel like
It
I was
would
like
be
how
rude
slapping them in
etiquette.
the face.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, and I never
can't
spotted it till I
refuse
moved
me
here.
that.
Yeah. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Anyway,
that's like, I've probably told this on here a long time ago. I heard a story once, and I think it was the older George W. Bush, not sure, one of the Bush presidents. They were in a culture where after the meal you were supposed to burp, and that showed your appreciation for the meal.
Yeah. I think
And it had to be a loud, the louder the better. Was it Japan? I was thinking
I think
Japan.
so. I think it's Japan. Yeah.
And so
I might be wrong,
things
but I
got
think
a
so.
little uncomfortable, and somebody was kind of doing their eyebrows at him and kind of winking and trying to give him a clue. And then he finally remembered, I'm sure that they give, tips and coaching of what to do in what cultures and all that. His aides, assistants. Anyway, so he was required to come up with a good burp. And then everybody smiled and was happy. But there was a lot of discomfort for a bit until he did that. He doesn't like our food. He doesn't like our meal.
Another one I've heard that, and I forget the cultures again, but in some cultures, if you finish everything on your plate, it's a sign that you'd like some more. And in other cultures, if you don't finish everything on your plate, it's a sign that you didn't like it. And I forget the cultures, but I heard a story of someone who finished everything as a sign of respect and then just got another full helping. It's like, oh my goodness. And then it's like, finished that because they felt they ought, and it just kept coming. It's like, when is this going to end? And it was because they were finishing everything on the plate.
Every bite.
Yeah. And
which
that was
tells
a sign
us
of
we
I'd like
should
some more.
Yes, it tells us if we're traveling, we should probably look up the etiquette so that we're not really stomping on somebody's feet or doing the completely wrong thing, sending the wrong signals out.
Yeah. Anyway.
Great stories. Do you have a favorite kitchen item that you want to share with us?
Oh, goodness.
Besides your bread machine, it sounds like your bread machine is pretty amazing and something you've used for years and years and years.
I use the bread machine a lot. I'm not sure I've got any particular thing. I use my crock pot a lot. When we moved here, we were given an Instant Pot, which I'd never come across before. And I used that a lot. I used that for rice a lot because I had a rice cooker, which I don't have now, but I just do rice in that. So I use the Instant Pot a lot for different things, actually. I've made yogurt in it as well. And yeah. So I actually don't use the oven this amount. I tend to use these other things because they're kind of easier. I'm not sure I've got one kind of item which I would say this is the thing that's changed my life. I guess it's I do a lot of slower cooking, and
the machines where you can press a button sound like they're the perfect thing to go along with your hospitality. Press a button and walk away.
Yeah,
Love
exactly.
Do you have any favorite stories from all your years of hospitality? Anything funny happen or a disaster? Anything that you remember from your many years of having people into your home?
Yes, I guess there's a number of stories. I do remember once having a family over who they were a Chinese family who'd recently moved to England, and their son, who was probably about 7 or 8 at the time, they just in the part of China they came from, they didn't eat fish, and I'd cooked like a whole salmon, which is another thing I love doing for lots of, well, not for the huge numbers, but for quite a lot of people. If you can get, it's a lot harder to get here, but if you can get a whole salmon and bake it, it's really easy because literally you just put some herbs and things in, cover it in foil and put it in the oven. So it's very easy. And a whole salmon will probably feed, I don't know, 8 to 10, that kind of number. So I've done that a lot. So anyway, I'd done a whole salmon that day, and this little boy absolutely loved it. And he was just coming back for more and more. I think his parents got a bit embarrassed because he kept coming back for more salmon. So that was kind of fun. It's nice when you find something that people clearly really like, and with children it's often more obvious because they'll be obvious if they don't like it, and they'll be obvious if they do like it.
They're not remembering all the etiquette, and so there's no cues there. It's like, if I like it, I'm going to come and get way too many helpings, and if I don't like it, I'm going to let you know. Children are fun.
Quite fun. Yes, they are. I think funny stories. I mean, there must be lots over the years of things. Actually, I do remember many years ago it was for the kind of Sunday night thing where we had maybe 25 or so people over, and I'd done like soft tacos, which are much less common in England. We used to have them sometimes in our family, but they're much less common certainly than in Texas, where it's like, I mean, if you go into a grocery store, there are 20 different brands and sizes and all the rest of it. Anyway, so I'd done something that was like a ground beef sort of thing to go in. I can't remember exactly, but there was a young man who's probably about, I don't know, older teenager, 16, 17, 18, and he'd never had like a soft taco. He didn't know what to do with it. And so he treated it like a piece of bread and made a sandwich. So he put one down, and then he put all the meat and all the bits and things on top, and then he put the other one on, and then tried to pick it up. And you can imagine the mess. And he was trying to hold
everything is spilling out,
thing, and it's spilling out. It was kind of funny, but so that was it was kind of funny. But I showed him how to do it.
He must not have been from Texas.
He was not from Texas. I was surprised. I mean, because it's not like it's unheard of in England.
No.
I mean, we used to have things like that infrequently, but I would do kind of fajita type
for
things,
sure. And if you've ever seen a Taco Bell commercial, I mean, I don't know, maybe he'd never seen even Taco Bell menus or commercials.
There was no Taco Bell in it. It's not a thing in England. So
it's not a thing in England.
No Taco Bell.
Not that I'm a big
So that made
fan of
me
Taco
laugh.
Bell, but I guess growing up in the South, like you're saying, there's just such a heavy Mexican influence that you
Yeah,
know exactly what soft tacos, hard tacos, empanadas,
yeah,
quesadillas, you know all of it.
yeah. I still have to look up some of the differences. I'm not quite there with all of them, but that made me laugh because he clearly had no idea what to do with these soft tacos and
That's
made a big
pretty
mess. But
great.
anyway, he
That's
learned.
pretty great.
So yeah, that was kind of fun.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing all
It's
of
been a
these
pleasure.
fun tips and all of your advice. I know the listeners are going to love all of your encouragement, especially in hosting big groups with making it a less stressful experience. This is going to be fabulous for everyone to listen to. So, thank you for coming on.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're
Bye bye.
welcome. Until next time, bye for now. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow the show and leave a review. It helps new people be able to find the podcast. And if you enjoyed this conversation especially, be sure to share it with a friend. Thank you for your time.